This is where, obviously, a conversation I had with Ty 2-3 weeks ago comes into play. He was saying, because I spoke to him about coaches throwing in the towel. Another thing that I kind of feel like we overlook a lot, and I've brought it up multiple times, and I don't really want to drag the chain on this one, but, for me, once again, I had a ref here, and he said in 15 years of him reffing fights, it's only happened once that a towel gets thrown in, and it's the same for me. I really don't see it happen too often. And Ty was the first one to say that, sometimes it can also be because, once again, the way the pay structure is. I mean, you've got your showing your win bonus, and because coaches get a percentage of that, obviously it makes sense for them to continue the fight hoping to get the win bonus as well, because you're not getting like, okay, I'll pay you X dollars for this fight. It's a percentage of whatever the total is at the end. On that same token, though, he's the first person to say to me he would be totally okay with you, throwing in the towel because he respects you enough for that. Where I found it weird when the one that I always point to is the Anthony Smith fight, where he was picking up teeth from the ground and they kept going. Then afterwards he said, well, if my coaches threw in the towel, they know they're no longer my coaches and things like that. But do you feel like that kind of pay structure, pay system does play at say, corners' decisions, whether they want to throw in the towel or not?
It could, but it has never affected me, and I'll give you a great example. I called Vinny Magalhães' fight, and it was for $1 million, man, and I threw in the towel. There was $1 million on the line in the PFL fight. I saw no clear path to victory. He's one of my best friends. I know his wife. I know his kids, and I wanted to see my good buddy fight another day. Had he fired me after that, I would have been totally fine with it, because I knew I would have made the right decision, that I was looking out for my fighter more than anything else. And that's what I got into this sport for, was to be a part of something dynamic. Of course, I want to win titles. That was for a title, and there was a lot of money on that line for that title. But it's more important for me to get my fighter home safely rather than putting them out there where I didn't see a clear path to victory. So, I've been there and I've done it. It stung, but I feel like it made me a better coach for doing it.
Man, and I totally respect that, because that's been my point in case all along, is like, at what point do you just say duty of care, right? And I would rather see a fighter fight another day than cop an absolute whooping and never come back the same way again, right? So, yeah, I can't respect that. Was that the fight against McCorkle? Was it against McCorkle? No.
Sean O'Connell.
Oh, O'Connell, yeah. Crazy. So you actually threw in the towel on that one?
Yeah, I got in the corner, and I got him on the stool in the corner. And for me, I just wanted to take that minute. I already had it in my head that we were going to stop the fight, but I wanted to take that minute to explain that to him, right? I just said, hey, I kind of wanted to get a little bit of feedback from him and see where his head was at. But I used that minute to say, like, hey, this one's on me, right? This one's on me. I feel like here's what I want to do. I want to stop the fight. And he didn't really have any objections to that. Had he been like, no, you're stopping this, maybe I would have changed my mind to an extent. But I wanted to put that out there first and let him know that I don't want you to take the blame for this. I don't want you to feel like, I don't want to put you in a scenario where you feel like you had to quit or anything like that, and you take any of that backlash. Let's put that on me, and this is my job to do that. And and I feel like I know him, and I know some of the injuries that we had during that camp, and I know what was bothering him, because I know my fighter. And from that point on, I was just like, I'm sending my guy out there to set him up for failure, and I'd rather just take it on the chin myself than have him take it on the chin. As far as like Mark Montoya goes, I'm very good friends with Mark, and I've known Mark a long time. Obviously, I didn't agree with that scenario, but Mark knows his fighter differently than I. I've never cornered Anthony Smith. Had that been me, of course, yeah, man, I probably would have stopped the fight up to that point. But again, it's hard for me to make a judgment when I'm not in that scenario.
And it is tough, and that's why I really respect you being honest with this one, because as I say, like, you ask refs, like, why didn't you call that fight? He's handing you teeth, and they're like, well, he was doing enough to stay in the fight. And then, and it's kind of like I always find, once again, like going back to everyone makes mistakes, is like I always look for accountability. And I just find that a lot of people, they try to always point the other direction. And I get it too, but like it's respected. I guess another fighter that came into play, which, did he used to train with you guys, Max?
Yeah, Max.
Right?
Yeah.
And I found that was kind of weird. Like, I did look, he wasn't taking a beating to the point where I'm like, that needs to be. But when he came back to the corner and he kind of said 9 times, like I kind of felt like, I don't know. Once again, I don't know the fighter. You probably know him better.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like he, when he asks you once, you kind of go, no, you're in it. You ask you twice, no, you're in it. But by the time you go 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think the total count was 9 times, I kind of feel like, what are you doing there? And it's just sad now because he became that kind of like talking point where, because and it's a bit different now because we hear all the audio, which before it wasn't the case. Where right now it's very clear, and he's lost his UFC contract or he got released and stuff like that. But in a point like that, when a fighter like, what kind of duty of care do you take there where you kind of got to take that role to sometimes say, listen, you're still in this, but like at what point would you have done the same thing? Would you have called the fight? Or do you think it was right to try to, as I said, because he wasn't taking a beating like Anthony, but like I kind of felt like he was saying mentally he was out. Like, so when a fighter taps out on you there, like mentally, not physically, but mentally, and you've only got that minute to get them back in, at what point do you kind of go, well, maybe it's time to call it a night?
Well, I mean, it's obviously a very intimate situation for me because I do know Max. I know Max very well. And, Max was kind of taken away from us by Drysdale. He told him that we couldn't train at our gym. And, technically he said he couldn't train at 2 gyms. So that whole scenario to me was just kind of a weird situation where Max was a guy that I've seen have these episodes in the gym. I've seen these episodes before, so I know him very well, and it really didn't surprise me, to be honest with you. If things weren't going his way, I think he gets pretty down on himself and he gets upset. So to that regard, I think Drysdale did the right thing and tried to pull him out of it. Now, like you said, you say it once, you say it twice. Now it's turning into a little desperate to try to get the kid off the stool. At that point, I think you're going to have to stop the fight and do the right thing and take care of the kid. Now, the one thing you have to keep in mind, sometimes guys are saying to call the fight, and they might have an injury that you're not aware of. They might have a broken rib. They might have something that they're not disclosing. You might even ask that, like, hey, are you hurt? Did something happen? But by body language alone. And that was my point in the Vinny thing where I said, hey, I think I'm going to call this fight. Now, had he just hunkered up and said, hell no, you ain't calling shit, that might have changed my mind, right? So think of the roles reversed when you're saying, hey, I need you to get off your ass and we need to get this fight. And this dude is just down and not making any changes with his body language. Body language is huge to me in that corner. Not only for me as a coach, but I have my corner watch that other corner, that other side, because there's a lot to be told. And that's happened to me quite a bit. You have your first and you have your second. I always have the guy that's the third in the corner watch that other side and tell me what you're picking up body language wise. It's very important. And what you saw in Max and Drysdale, there was really no coming back from that point with him. So I think Drysdale did the right thing up to the point of maybe a minute. I mean, obviously the 3 or 4 times in, and from that point on, you had to call the fight. There was nothing more you can do for the kid.